remained firmly shut. Only a ram could break them down, and the sheriff was not about to lay siege to a house of God. He was caught on the horns of a dilemma. If he attacked the abbey, his soul was in peril. If he failed in his duty, he risked being stripped of office, perhaps worse. King Henry was not in a tolerant mood. The bell ceased to toll. Silence reigned, broken only by the moan of a blustery wind swept in from the North Sea. The sheriff screwed up his courage. There was no help for it. He would have to go forward himself, show the king's seal, threaten the monks with force if they refused to open their gates. He was about to dig in his spurs when a horn sounded from the north. Just as the note started to fall away, it was joined by others. Horns, horns, horns from all directions. Richard and his men galloped back to their comrades even as the horns rose to a crescendo. They were accompanied by something else, the low, drumming noise of hundreds of hoofbeats. North and south the moor was bound by thick belts of woodland. Soldiers erupted from the trees, over 200 mailed knights and sergeants on barded horses. At their heels came a horde of footmen, baying like hounds. They closed on the sheriff and his men. At the same time, the great gates of the abbey finally yawned open. These disgorged another company of spearmen led by a knight on a black destrier. Outnumbered at least 3-1, the sheriff could only swallow his pride and flee. He swung his destrier about and signalled frantically to his men to ride for it. Too late. A dozen or so outriders to the north galloped ahead on swift rounces to cut off his only escape route. The sheriff ripped out his sword. His only choice was to ride straight through these men, cut down any who stood in his way. "Charge!" he bawled, driving in his spurs. His destrier flung herself into a gallop and thundered straight at the horsemen blocking the road to Alnwick. They in turn formed line and rode to meet him, spears levelled. Before he could get to grips, the nearest rider drove his spear into the neck of the sheriff's horse. The beast reared onto her haunches, bloody foam pouring from her mouth. She stood unsteadily for a moment, forelegs cutting at thin air, then twisted and keeled over. The sheriff landed heavily on his side, one leg trapped under the horse's dead weight. He shrieked in pain as his thigh bone snapped. The dying animal bucked and writhed and threatened to roll over him. Shadows passed overhead. The roar of battle thundered in his ears. Purple lights flashed and wheeled before his eyes. Groaning, he managed to drag himself clear. His broken leg trailed uselessly behind him in the dirt. Above swirled the din of battle. Curses, war cries, clash and thump of weapons, men and horses screaming in pain and terror. He could do nothing to help his soldiers. They were outnumbered, caught, encircled. Unless the enemy, whoever they were, chose to show mercy, they would all be slaughtered like cattle. The sheriff could have wept. To die here, on this blasted moor. Is this what God had in store for me? The sound of fighting petered out, replaced by the groans of wounded and dying. A man loomed over Wiscardus, who had to blink to make him out. "Lord Vesey," he murmured, "so it is true. You lead this pack of traitors." Baron Vesey, Lord of Alnwick, looked almost apologetic. His surcoat bore a black cross against a yellow field, the arms of his house. Tall and muscular, a fighting soldier in the prime of his life, his face was framed by a mail coif, iron helm tucked inside the crook of his arm. Vesey's boyish features, adorned by a clipped yellow moustache, were streaked with blood. The young lordling's most notable feature were his eyes. These were large and blue, with long lashes like a girl's. "I am